Hey class, this is a quick tutorial on what we were working on today. So basically how we can make these modules manually. So if you have a string of modules like this, you can do all of them simultaneously, but let's just go through how to make this basic group here. So what we did, the first thing we did is create a line. So go to your Create tab, go to Line, and we have to turn on this thing called Auto Grid, and that is so the tab or the line that we extrude will be normal to the surface instead of perpendicular to the XYZ. So we want to turn on Auto Grid, and then we basically just want to trace these edges, and you kind of have to rotate around, make sure it's relating to the right angle. So it doesn't look like this is kind of snapping to it. So let's check something really quick. Let's go to let's add an edit poly. And let's make sure on the surface step count, it's just 0. So I took the lines from Zach's model and I just added a surface. And when you do that, make sure your step on your patch topology is 0. Okay, so then we're also going to make sure these are all flipped the right direction. So if I select these, see how they're kind of dark and they're bright on this side? That means the normal is facing the wrong direction. So I want to actually select all these polygons and then hit the flip command over here on the right. Okay, so now when I go back to the create line with the auto grid selected, it can read that surface. See how the XYZ rotates to that surface? Okay, so now we're going to just trace and it'll automatically snap to those. I have my vertex snap selected up here, so right click up here on this 3 with the magnet to select vertices. Okay, and then when I'm done with that line, I'm going to right click to finish it, and I'm just going to do that for all of these. And notice I'm snapping to this point as well. That's going to be important in a little bit. So just kind of follow this, make sure your XYZ is in the right direction. Okay, this one only needs 1. Okay, that's probably good for now. Okay, so you could keep doing that on all of these. But so now I'm going to select all of these lines. I can just select everything and then hit Alt and then deselect that surface. We're going to add an Extrude Modifier to all of those. And notice they're extruding now normal to the surface. That's why that auto grid is important. So let's say these tabs are like 5 inches deep. We could play with this variable later, but for now we'll just say 5 inches. So next thing we need to do is trim these where they're intersecting. So to do that, we created a new line. You can turn auto grid off at this point. And I just traced the top of this line, and make sure you're also snapping to that point there. So I'm just going to trace all of these. That one only has 1. Okay, and then once you do that, you don't need these extrudes anymore. So I'm going to select all these surfaces I extruded. And then if I go to Modify tab, since I applied them all at the same time, I can actually delete them all at the same time as well. So I'll just delete all those. I just wanted those so I could get those lines. And I'm going to right click and hide that surface now for a second. And I'm going to attach all these. So instead of just attaching each one individually, you can attach multiple. If you select attach multiple, you can select everything from the list. And now I need to trim these lines. So I want to go to Spline Subobject Level, hit my Trim button, and you can turn this on or off and see what happens. But I think we can just turn it off and then trim these. Okay, so now we have perfect tabs. It'll be in plane. Deselect Trim when you're done. You'll right click and unhide that surface again. And so now you want to go in here. You can add at this point another edit spline if you want, but you could also just do it within this line. But I'm going to hit this Create Line button. And now you can build the tab manually. So for this one, for example, you could either do it from here to there if you want the tab to fold this direction, or you could do it from here to here if you want to fold that. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do it in this direction for now. You can say yes or no, it's not going to matter. So I'll just keep going. these. This is the big diamond, right? So I want to go to the last point there. And I won't finish all of these, I just want to kind of show you the basics. Okay, so that's the diamond. You also need to add these midpoint lines. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and hide that surface again. So I'm going to hide unselected, so I just have this. So you can see that'll now give you the folding surface. And you can also get the tabs. So let's go ahead and we're just going to delete all these construction lines now. I would just keep them in yours, but I'm just going to do it for clarity right now. Oh, because you actually need those. Okay, I'm not going to delete those because you need them to build the remainder of the tab. So now we need to build the tab. So I'm going to build the tab by snapping to these lines. Right, so that's going to be this outside tab. Snap to that line. Okay, so on this other module, I'm going to have to snap there. I'll snap there, and there, and there. And so what I'm doing now, I'm just kind of making these modules manually, but the key is that now these tabs are in plane, so we know that they'll unfold correctly and that they'll come together correctly, because earlier they were kind of intersecting each other. So this will ensure that that doesn't happen. And there's a lot of ways. I've sort of built this cage network of lines, but there's a lot of different ways you could reconnect these to make different module types. So I think that's kind of the advantage of it. But you can start there and see what you come up with. Let's see what happens if I delete some of these lines we don't need anymore. All right, we actually have to rebuild that line. So remember, a surface has to be three-sided, so we're going to make all of these three-sided. Let's delete that one. I can just delete all these other ones right now. Okay, what's that going to give us? Let's see. Okay, so I didn't finish doing the other ones, but you can see it's starting to give you a start. So what matters is how you are reconnecting all these lines. So you have to make sure you build your tabs in there and you start connecting them. But that's the basic method for at least starting to create these modules.